What is up? Welcome everybody to another episode of AYS Fight Club, episode 30. So we rolling along here. Got the boss in here. Let's go. Yep, we're gonna go. There's a lot to talk about. So we'll kick off with we'll jump right into it, guys. We got UFC 262 this past weekend. Got us a new lightweight champion crown after Khabib vacated the title. Dustin Poirier decided to pass it up, go with the money fight for Conor. Leaves Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler. Oliveira took him quite, I want to say it was 2010, 2011 when he made his debut. So he's been chugging along for several years. Michael Chandler, one fight, knocked out Dan Hooker, and that's all it took. He got his title shot. But it was Oliveira that came out on top. You know, we were thinking that if Oliveira was going to win, it's going to have to be on the ground. But he did exactly the opposite. He landed the knockout shots and earned the TKO stoppage. That first round, though, was definitely Chandler. If he could have kept that up in the second round, you know, it definitely would have been Chandler. But, you know, Oliveira did what he needed to do to finally get the championship. And you could tell it meant a lot to him. You know, a lot of people were saying, you know, he'll have the Khabib shadow over him because Khabib never really lost. And then there's all the stuff about what about Poirier, and you know, and what about Justin Gaethje. But yeah, Oliveira, all that doesn't matter to Oliveira. You know, he won the title. He's going to look at it as he is the champion. If you want me, come and get me. And that's definitely the approach that Oliveira is going to take. You know, he may not be to most fans, especially your casual fans, they may not know much about Charles Oliveira. But to your hardcore fans, you know, he's definitely one of the guys you would want as a champion because he's got that mentality. If you want me, come and get me. You know, he'll fight whoever they tell him to fight. You know, he's not going to back down from anybody. That's definitely, you know, what you love to hear from your champion. But I definitely think that, you know, Poirier and Conor, the winner will get a title fight. We'll get the title fight, but I don't know if it's going to be the next title fight. Beneil Dariush went in there and, you know, took care of business with Tony Ferguson. A lot of times Beneil Dariush is not, you know, the most entertaining guy to watch, but he wins. And that's all that matters. You know, you get paid to win. You know, a lot of it is kind of putting on a show now, you know, with the way the sport is. It's kind of, you know, entertainment's a big part of it too. But at the end of the day, you got to win. You know, you can put on a show all day, but if you don't win, then it doesn't matter. You're going to be right out the door. You got to win too. So, you know, Dariush is an old school guy. You know, he's going to put the win over how pretty it looks. And he went there and took care of Tony Ferguson. You know, handed Ferguson his third loss in a row. So, Ferguson, you know, he doesn't sound like he's ready to hang it up. You know, he's got a new camp, you know, surrounded himself with new people. You know, it may take a camp or two. A lot of times, you know, that readjustment period, especially with everything that he was going through, you know, he may just need a little time to readjust. But Beneil Dariush is clamoring for that title shot too. So depending on how quick Oliveira wants to get in there, it could be Dariush getting the title shot just to keep the train going here. You know, you could see them, you know, Conor and Dustin is still a couple months away. It's still, you know, there's still some time away before that one. You could see Dariush and Oliveira in there the next month after that, you know, and then set up for the end of the year. So it wouldn't surprise me if, you know, the winner of Dustin and Conor doesn't get the next title shot. You know, they get a title shot, but, you know, it may not be the next title shot. We'll just have to see how active, you know, Oliveira wants to be. You know, Dariush has put in the work too. You know, he's one of those guys that has really put in, you know, just like Oliveira. You know, he's been around the block for a while. He's put in the work, you know, just a veteran, a gritty veteran who, you know, knows what it takes to win. You know, he's been on quite the run too. So we'll start at the bottom of the main card. We'll jump into the showcase fight, I guess if you want to call it that, of the prelims. It was Andre Muniz and Ronaldo Jacare Souza. Man, Muniz got that, you know, that arm bar on and broke Souza's arm. He took his arm with him. And he took the career of Souza with him too. You know, took his UFC career with him too. You know, just recently today, I think it was today, the UFC cut Jacare Souza. You know, he's a legend. You know, that if he wants to keep fighting, I'm sure he can find a place somewhere. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if he ended up in Bellator. You know, he was a big-time Strike Force guy, so he's fought on that Showtime CBS platform. You know, it would be awesome to see him back on that Showtime CBS platform and hear Mauro Ranallo, you know, calling a Souza fight again. You know, bring back a lot of good memories, you know, from those mid 2000s or so, you know, late 2000s when Jacare was tearing up Strikeforce. So definitely, you know, he's definitely a Bellator caliber fighter. He's still got some left to go. But you know, going up into the main card here, Edson Barboza showing he's still got it. You know, the fight with Shane Burgos. Man, it was just that I guess they're calling it the delayed knockout. You know, Barboza caught him with the right hook, and Burgos was still kind of standing there, still in the pocket for a second, and then faded back, and you know that was it. You know, so sometimes that can happen where it takes a while for your brain to receive the signal of what's going on in your body to react. You know, that's happened before. I've seen that happen before. You know, but it's very rare when it happens. You know, I've seen it on the regional scene. You know, in person where, you know, a guy will take a knockout shot like that, and it takes a little bit for the body to respond, and then they drop. Or, you know, in Shane Burgos' case, you know, he just kind of withered back to the cage. You know, Barboza was right on him, you know, and able to finish it. You know, sometimes that happens, you know, but it's just another feather in the cap of Barboza on, you know, you wouldn't expect that from anybody else. You know, it's Barboza all the way. You know, that's how his knockouts go. You know, the wheel kick on Terry Edom. You know, this one with Shane Burgos. You know, you wouldn't if anybody on the card would pull out some crazy knockout like that, it would be Edson Barboza. You know, it's just the way his knockouts go. You know, that'll be his legacy. You know, but yeah, I mean, showing he still got some in the tank. You know, that was, you know, and Shane Burgos is a surging young fighter. You know, he's a warrior. I mean, he has showed here lately. You know, he's really went on a surge, and for Barboza to stop somebody like that, you know, it's huge. You know, that's definitely a huge fight. Oh, you know, we always got the hat game going here at the Fight Club. Always working on trying to get a Polish hat. It's kind of hard to find that, you know, around here, but you know, I may have to jump on the Amazon and get some Polish hats in here. Um, Blake said it was a sick KO. Yeah, definitely it was. You know, and like I said, it's one of those. It's typical Edson Barboza. You know, like I said, you wouldn't expect that from anybody else on the card. But Edson, if I told you that knockout happens and picked the fighter, and you looked at this card right here on 262, Edson Barboza would be the first thing to jump out at you. It's just kind of how it happens for him. Um, but we'll keep rolling up because we got a couple of events coming up this weekend. We got Bellator on tomorrow on Friday. We got UFC on Saturday and Babylon MMA from Poland on Saturday. So we got a boxing. We got a lot going on this weekend. In the women's, we got Caitlin Chikagian in the flyweight division and Viviane Araújo. You know, went to the decision. Viviane was not happy with the decision, but you know, if you want to knock off, you know, Caitlin Chikagian has been the number 2 in that division. You know, as long as Valentina Shevchenko stays there, you know, everyone else is going to be in her shadow in that division. I still think it's a while until somebody can catch up to Shevchenko in that division. You know, Shevchenko's had a couple close losses to Amanda Nunes, but you know, you're going up in size. You know, that's a champion 2 weight division. You know, 1 weight division and 2 weight divisions higher than you. So, you know, size, you know, definitely can come into play. But, you know, Caitlin Chikagian, you know, she's the number 2 in that division for a while. You know, a lot of times they talk about gatekeepers. You know, if you want to, you know, are you a gatekeeper to the UFC? Caitlin Chikagian is a gatekeeper to the championship. If you want a title shot against Shevchenko, you got to be able to get through Chikagian. You know, and she did exactly what she needed to do. You know, she took the unanimous decision. And, you know, like I said, if you want that title shot, you got to get through Chikagian. And until you do, you know, you're going to be right underneath. And she's always that solid. She's that solid number 2. You know, until somebody can dethrone her, you know, that top 2 in that division are kind of locked in. And it's still a thin division too. You know, the women's featherweight division. You know, Dana White's kind of said, it's not really a division. You know, the flyweight is thin. The men's, you know, flyweight's the same. It's thin. It's hard. You know, most adults aren't 125 pounds. You know, that's like two of me can get in. Like I can get in there and I could cover both sides of both corners. but it's just not normal to be that small. So we'll head on to the next fight, which was Rogerio Bontorion and Matt Schnell. Matt Schnell, Louisiana guy, North Louisiana. He's also the commentator for AKA, who I'm the publicist for. Great organization. He does the color commentary work. Um, you know, Schnell is a flyweight. He's a ranked flyweight. And this fight, though, was actually a bantamweight. So they bumped up 10 pounds. So that 125 to 135. Schnell's already a small guy if you've never met him before. When he's a small guy. So going up to that 135, that's tough for him. I know that. And then Rogerio came in heavy. He was 137. So he was already over that. So that was a huge size advantage. He's a, much bigger guy. So, he took the decision in that one. But, if there's more, if Schnell gets more at flyweight, it's a whole different story. If these guys meet at flyweight, it's a whole different story. Schnell is definitely one of the top flyweights in the world, and he's ranked as a flyweight for a reason. But, a lot of times we see that. We've seen a lot of these flyweight guys, they're bumping them up to bantamweight. So, we'll see. They keep saying they want to keep that division alive, but then they take premier guys like Matt Schnell and bump them up to bantamweight. So, we'll see what happens there. We kind of talked about the co-main event. We'll talk about some fallout that could happen with it. Beneil Dariush, got the decision win. He may have put himself in contention for the next title shot. Like I said, if Dustin wins, that the Poirier, Conor contest, definitely see, him taking it. If Conor wants it, he can definitely get it if he gets the win. Just have to see, what Conor's got up his sleeve. Conor seems to be, wherever the money fights are. But yeah, this is like seventh straight win for Beneil Dariush. His last defeat was that flash KO by Alexander Hernandez when he made his debut on super short notice and just caught him, with the knockout. But since then, he's won 7 straight fights, including the last one against Ferguson. Before that, he's beaten Diego Ferreira, another tough guy, Drew Dober, Thiago Moises. So, he's beaten, some tough names. And, he gets to finish a lot of times. A lot of times he's got some spinning. He's got a spinning back, knockout, back fist knockout. He's got submissions. He's got everything, but he's gonna win. That's the thing about Dariush. He's gonna do whatever it takes to win. If it's boring, oh well. He's going in there to win. Now with Ferguson, we'll have to see. He sounded a lot better than normal. If you watch the UFC embeddeds, he definitely sounded like he's better off in a better place mentally, which has kind of always been Ferguson's, if there is a down, to his game, the mental as far as just everything around him, handling everything around him. He said he got better people. It was more of an Olympic style mentality as far as, going in there and handling things. But, we'll see if he can work some kinks out and get back in there. His days competing for the title, I think, are gone. But, I think he can still stay relevant and stay up there in the top of the division. And we'll just always have to think, that one with Khabib is the one that got away. That there were so many times that fight was scheduled and it fell through on both ends. Several times, even on weigh-in day, that fight fell apart, It was just, the one that didn't happen, and now it's not going to happen. They both kind of went in different directions a little bit with that. But we'll see what happens there. But yeah, keep an eye on Beneil Dariush. He may end up getting that next title shot. Don't be surprised if you see, a late summer, like August or something, Dariush and Oliveira, fighting for the title. And then maybe the end of the year, whoever wins that, meeting, Dustin or Conor at the end of the year. Don't be surprised if you hear Dariush's name pop up for the next title shot, But we'll keep rolling. We'll go ahead and talk about UFC Vegas 27, which is the next event going to take place at the Apex. So I'm not sure if they're going to I don't know what Vegas's laws, regulations, I should say, are on fan attendance and stuff like that. So I don't know if they're actually going to let some people into the Apex just to have a little bit of noise. It definitely seemed when they had the card in Jacksonville and then when they had the card in Texas, in Houston, that it was just crazy. The fans' reaction was definitely propelled the fighters. It adds something. Those fighters, a lot of them, they feed off of that. So we'll see. But we'll just hit some of the main fights on this card. One of the main fights I'm looking forward to, it looks like it's going to be the one that kicks off the main card, is Jack Hermansson and Edmund Shabazian. Super excited about that one. Jack Hermansson was definitely in the middleweight title talks. He was surging up. His name was right there, and he had a couple falters. I think his last one was lost to Martin Vettori, who's actually going to get the next title shot against Adesanya, who they fought before and went to a split decision. But we'll see with that one. And then Edmund Shabazian was undefeated, just one of the Ronda Rousey, Glendale Boxing Club guys that really shot up, through the Contender Series. Looked great, and then ran into Derek Brunson, just a veteran you can't count out, and this may be the same thing, running into Jack Hermansson. Somebody who's got something to fight for too. He's trying to get back into the title picture. A lot of these divisions, and Adesanya is another one of those champions who will fight anybody, who can get up to the number one contender ranking. So Hermansson, this is a big fight for him too, so definitely looking forward to this one. This one can definitely, could take fight of the night. I mean, there's both of these guys have something to fight for, and Shabazian wants to show that, that was, something, sometimes it happens, you lose, but you keep rolling. It's not a sign of anything. And then the same thing for Hermansson. He wants to turn it around and show that he can compete with the big names, because it seems like he gets right to the top, and then that's kind of when things happen to him. So he wants to show that he can get in there and take these guys out. And this is a great start. Get Shabazian, a young guy who's still considered a young, prospect. Take him out, especially if he can do it, in fantastic fashion. Then that can turn him around. Get another fight this year, and you never know what can happen for Hermansson. It could turn around real quick. Another fight to look forward to on here is David Dvorak and Julian Pavia, which is probably going to be the fight right after. David Dvorak is one of those Eastern European guys. He's fights out of the Czech Republic. He's got a 19-3 record. Just a dangerous guy. A lot of these guys you gotta it's just a different mindset. We've talked about it before. It's a different mindset. Poland and Czech Republic, and these guys. They're just bred different. That's part of my obsession with Polish MMA. It's just the way they come in there. Since he's been in the UFC, 2-0. Come in there handling business. Last one, Jordan Espinoza. So I mean, he can. He's got knockouts. He's got submissions. He's one of those that I call. He's like a all utility finisher. He can finish you any way he needs to. The submission, the knockout, the decision. He can handle it all three. So that's going to definitely be a good fight there. And then also on the card, anytime you got heavyweights, that are new to the division, or you're just unsure of, it's always fireworks, because they want to make a name for themselves. You got Justin Tafia and then Jared Vandera. Definitely looking forward to this one too, because you just don't know which way it can go. If it turns into a slugfest, then either guy can do it. Justin's coming off the loss to Carlos Felipe, but he does have a knockout over Juan Adams. Juan Adams is a huge, massive heavyweight. So to knock him out in the first round, that shows you got serious killer KO power. It just takes one shot. And Jared, on the other hand, 11-5. Just another dangerous fighter. He's a Dane Henderson guy. Out of Team Quest. He's coming off of a loss, but he's also got a first-round knockout in the Contender Series. You know, he lost his debut, but, you know, he's got that knockout. So, I mean, you just, with the heavyweights, especially, like I said, the unknown heavyweights are, you know, the guys who aren't, you know, we don't know exactly what they want to bring to it, or they're still trying to find their, you know, their feet in the UFC. You just never know. It's like with Justin, he's 4-2 as a pro. You know, he's still developing his style. You know, he's in the high ranks. You know, a lot of them, they get in there and they throw leather. And then our co-main event in the strawweight, we got the former champion, the first champion, Carla Esparza, and we're gonna just go with Yan. These Chinese names kill me. But Carla Esparza, you know, quietly been on a run. You know, since, you know, she was the first ever strawweight champion. You know, she's got four wins in a row. So, and I mean, Michelle Waterson, Alexa Grasso, Marina Rodriguez. So, I mean, she's, you know, facing some big, you know, defeated some big names and you know, back on track. Jan, on the other hand, you know, doing what she needs to do. You know, 13-1 in her career. You know, she's got 3, 4, 5 straight wins in the UFC. You know, Angela Hill, Carolina Kovacevic, Claudia Gadelha is her last one. That was in November. So, I mean, what she does is she drags you into the deep waters and then just sees if you can swim with her. You know, she'll just grind you out. But Esparza is the same way with, you know, with her wrestling ability. You know, she can do the same thing. So it's just going to be, you know, a battle of wills and see who can last the longest. You know, like her Esparza, her last 2 wins are both split decision wins. So that just indicates to you right there that they were very tough contests, but she was able to do just enough. With Jan, I don't know, that may not work doing just enough, you know. So, you know, I like Jan in this one, but and I personally wouldn't bet on it. It's too close. But I mean, that's kind of what Esparza does, right? I mean, they're always too close. So I just think Jan's going to be able to do enough to where, you know, she can handle what she's got to do. And then in the main event, got Rob Font and Cody Garbrandt. So, you know, Cody Garbrandt, the former champion, back in there. Rob Font has been on a run here lately. You know, his last 3 fights, you know, 3 wins in a row. Especially the last one against Marlon Moraes with the knockout. So, you know, coming in there on a little run of his own, you know, he especially got wins over Sergio Pettis, which that looks even better now, you know, with the success he's having at Bellator. And then Ricky Simone, who's been, you know, a solid fighter. So he's got the quality wins, you know, and a win over Cody Garbrandt would be huge for him, especially in this, you know, bantamweight division, trying to get a title shot. You know, that would be huge for him. You know, Garbrandt's got, you know, the couple losses to TJ Dillashaw, but, you know, that's always up in the air for debate, I guess, on, you know, performance enhancing allegedly. You know, that's why TJ's on his suspension. You know, but he's also got the loss to Pedro Munoz. But, you know, he's coming off the Rafael Assunção knockout at the buzzer beater. You know, that was in last year in June. So it's been about a year for Garbrandt. I'm gonna go with Garbrandt, but man, I mean, if Font won, I wouldn't be surprised because, you know, he's been on a run lately. You know, he's been taking out some decent name, you know, some quality names. So it would not surprise me, you know, if it goes that way. But we'll jump ship here. We'll go over to the Bellator 259, which is the main event is Chris Cyborg and Leslie Smith. And this will actually be the second time that they fought. They fought in the UFC. I had to write it down because it was a while back. UFC 198, which was in May of 2014. So about the same time of the year, you know, but 7 years ago. So really not much has changed. Cyborg still knocking people out. Leslie Smith, just a gritty veteran, but that one, Cyborg won with the first round knockout. I really don't see it any other way. Um, since Cyborg came to Bellator, she just kind of did what she was known for before running into Amanda Nunes. Just kind of, getting the gold and just, wrecking shop on everybody. So with Leslie Smith, I really don't think it's going to be any different. I think she's going to get overwhelmed, and Cyborg will drop her, just overwhelm her, just put the pressure on, just overwhelm her, because I don't think she's going to get a clean knockout on Smith. Smith is very tough. I think it's just going to get to where the referee's going to have to stop it, just because of the accumulation of shots. But it's going to be a Chris Cyborg fight. It just is going to be what it's going to be. But we'll jump back down here. Valerie Loretta and Hannah Guy. So it's definitely going to be interesting. It's awesome to see Hannah Guy getting a shot. We'll jump to her in a second. But she's from the Gulf Coast area. So that's always awesome to see. And to fight on this level, on the Bellator level, is awesome, especially against somebody like Valerie Laredo, who is on fire right now. It just everybody knows who she is right now. She came in and just has been wrecking shop on everybody right now. She's 3-0 in Bellator. For Laredo made her pro debut in Bellator, which we've talked about that before. Bellator is kind of known for that. The UFC definitely takes the opposite approach of taking a fighter and raising them pretty much. We saw, they've done that with Aaron Pico, and there's several other names you can find and go with from Bellator, where they take them and they raise them. Which can be good and bad. It can be good, especially somebody like Laredo, whose star power is through the roof. Or if she was 3-0 on the regional scene, she may be making some noise, but not like what she is right now. I'm sure Bellator is feeding off of that as well. But like with Aaron Pico, where he suffers some losses, we see, and a lot of times these things would manifest themselves on the regional scene, where they wouldn't be seeing it. They can learn, take their bumps, and what you don't see is the amateur career that these fighters have too. Most 99% of them are going to have double-digit amateur fights. They're going to take some losses. They're going to take their bumps and their bruises, and they're going to learn. They're going to come back, and then when they finally get to the big stage, especially what UFC does, they get on the UFC stage. They look like all-stars. That's because they've worked out these kinks. They've spent hours in the gym 2 and 3 times a day for 6 days a week. They've got in the cage, and then they fight Saturday, and Monday they're back in, training for their next fight, whenever that's going to be. And on the regional scene, a lot of these people fight, every month, for nothing. Amateurs make nothing. Pros make, what they can. But, it's a different thing, and they come up on the regional scene. They can take, like I said, the bumps and bruises, get the exposure, and work their way up to the bigger stages. Whereas Bellator, you're kind of doing that on the stage there. So for people, like Aaron Pico, you see those bumps and bruises, and a lot of people will question that. But he would be having these experiences on the regional scene, but a lot of people don't see that. So a lot of it depends on the mentality of the fighter too. So which I think Aaron Pico's going to be just fine. I was just using him as an example of somebody that you see lose. But Laredo has done well so far. But Hannah Guy is coming onto the scene here, and she's from the Gulf Coast area. I personally saw her fight at an Empire fight. I get Empire 3. Had to look see which one it was, but I was cage size there for that one. She fought Kayla Rocco, who is product of American Top Team. Works closely under Dean Thomas. That was a split decision loss for her, but it's gonna be a tough fight, and it's definitely gonna be a fun fight to watch. And especially when you get somebody from that from the area, gets to showcase their skills. It's always it's always a good thing to support them. Another fight on the card, which could definitely take fight of the night and has big implications in the new Bellator rankings. I think they just ranked the top 10. UFC is 15, but I think Bellator is just 10. Fabian Edwards and Austin Vanderford. It has huge implications in the middleweight division. These are both two young guys with a lot of talent that can really, take over the Bellator's middleweight division in the future. Fabian Edwards been with Bellator for a little while now. I remember seeing him on fights several times for Bama, which is one of the Europe or one of the English London. I don't know if it's London, but I know it's somewhere in England based organizations. And then he's worked his way to Bellator. But that one's definitely going to be an exciting fight. Definitely going to be the fireworks there. I know they've been going at it back and forth on social media, so that's definitely going to be a fight worth checking out on that one there. So we'll get into a little bit of boxing news. So it looks like a judge has stepped in for an arbitration hearing. And we're going to get a third Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder bout. That's the thing I've always talked about with boxing and MMA. Boxing is just it's a whole different animal. You get judges and all that, and you got different organizations and, WBO, WBC, IBF, that, you got all these IBF, you got all the, your four majors. And they all, compete over who's fighting who for what title and this and that. And, this is just that rearing its ugly head again. So it looks like we'll get that third fight, and then Anthony Joshua will have to fight Alexander Usyk, who made the jump up from, the light cruiserweight up to heavyweight. He's been, a monster, and so that one will be for the WBO title. And Joshua I think he's got 48 hours from some point today to reason why he shouldn't have to, defend that as his mandatory bout, because they were going to have Usyk and somebody else for an interim title. That way it didn't hold up the division when Joshua went and fought Tyson. But now that that's off, there's no reason why Joshua can't fight Usyk, which that would be an amazing fight. But I don't know if Joshua's team doesn't want it. I don't know. So I guess we'll find out here soon if they're going to really push, to not have that. But also though, Saturday there's a lot of you're gonna have to record something, because there's so much MMA and boxing going on this weekend. Junior welterweight Jose Ramirez and Josh Taylor are fighting on ESPN. So free boxing. They're both undefeated. So somebody's gonna unify some titles and stay undefeated. The other one's gonna drop their title. Ramirez is a WBC and WBO champion. Taylor's the IBF and the ring champion. So that's somebody's gonna have 3 of the 4. So we'll see how that goes. So that'll be cover boxing for us for right now. We'll talk some more. But right now we'll go to our second to last segment, which is every week is the Gulf Coast Corner. Talk about some AKA 15 getting closer and closer, which will be next Friday, May 28th in Monroe at the Music City Hall, I believe is the name of the venue. Go check out AKA Fights on Facebook. You'll have all the information there. Prelims start at 5:30 because the main card, which starts exactly at 7 o'clock, will be on UFC Fight Pass. So this is a huge opportunity for regional fighters, especially in this area, Louisiana, the East Texas area, to compete on UFC Fight Pass. It's a huge platform. The main event will be Cody Freeman and Jonathan Island. Cody Freeman going for his, second weight class, be a double champ, in the pro division. Jonathan Island, dangerous fighter, out of the Baton Rouge and New Orleans area. He's got a great training, he's got ton of submission. Most of his wins have been by submission. He can finish it. He was just recently in the cage with UFC veteran Brandon Davis. So he's been in there, with some of the top talent in the area. He knows what it's like to be in there with a dangerous opponent. He's definitely not looking past Cody at all. So this is going to make for a killer main event here. But then you also think it's 7 pro fights and 5 amateur fights right now if everything stays as is. Things can happen, injuries happen, and it makes for hell for the matchmaker. If anything happens, the matchmaker probably works more the week before and the week of the fight than the whole 6 weeks or whatever, 8 weeks before when they make the card. You can ask any of them. I've asked plenty of them. I know Mr. Georgetown handles AKA's fights, and I talked to him about. He's like, man, he said I work harder the day before the fight on the fight card than every other day added up together. Things happen. Things fall apart. It's part of the game. It's part of the sport. But there's a ton of great pro action, going on. Jesse Henry has been on a roll. He's going to be in action. You got Craig Grove, who got a submission over Chris Crosby, who's a black belt. Stepping in there. That when those two wrap up, it's going to be dangerous fight. Jesse Roberts is getting back in the cage, who made his pro debut in Bellator, and got a victory. So you have a lot of big names. We'll definitely cover it more in depth next week. As of right now, we actually have Cody Freeman is scheduled to come on the show, who is like I said, AKA champion, going for double champ status. So as of right now, we have him scheduled to come on the show next Thursday, which that'd be awesome. Talk to the champ, see how he's doing night before the fight. And we'll see, how it goes from there. Like I said, we'll break down the fights a lot more, especially, we'll see if any fights change or, what happens. But, there's a ton of, if you go to, like I say, go to the AKA Facebook page, which is AKA Fights, you see a breakdown, a press release for each of the main fights, which I wrote for each of them. You can go check out, my writings on each fight, as a preview from both sides of the cage, so you can get a better idea of red corner, blue corner, see who's stepping in there, have a little backstory on the fighters. It just helps personalize the fighters, and that was my huge thing that I loved about The Ultimate Fighter. I'm not a reality TV person at all. Never have been, still not to this day. But what I loved about The Ultimate Fighter was that it humanized the fighters. It wasn't just 2 people getting in the cage fighting or 2 people getting in a ring fighting. You got to see their people. You got to see, their stories and their struggles. And they're just like you, and they're just like me. And, you got to see that. And we try to do that by bringing fighters onto the show so you can see them and hear them. And, throw questions in the comments for them and see that they're just like you. They're just like me, Of course, fighters are wired a little bit different. They'll tell you that. I can definitely tell you that I've been in enough locker rooms and set enough cages to tell you they're all wired a little bit different. It is what it is. But, for the most part, but it gives you the ability to see what they go through. And that's what I loved about The Ultimate Fighter. So, like I said, next Thursday, we'll definitely talk a lot more about it because, like I said, we'll have Cody Freeman on here. We'll have the champ on. See how he's doing, see his mindset going into it, what he thinks about fighting on Fight Pass again, because this will be his second time. He defeated Colin Wright at AKA, I want to say it was 13. And so, we'll see his thoughts on that, see what he thinks about being on Fight Pass. So, like I said, we'll be a lot more centricated on that event with it, especially right around the corner. But, next Friday, especially if you're in the Monroe area, next Friday, May 28th, Music City Hall in Monroe. You definitely get your tickets now. Go to AKA Fights. Get with one of the fighters. Go to the Facebook page and it'll direct you where you need to go. Because it's going to sell out. AKA events always do very well. They always, pack the house. Because there's so many pro fights. Everybody loves to see pro fights, and that's what they give you. Especially on Fight Pass, you want the best product, and that's exactly what they deliver. That's why they're on Fight Pass. They're on there for a reason. So we will go to my favorite segment of the show, 3% Polish. And we'll talk about some Babilon MMA, which is set for tomorrow, technically for us. I think it's Saturday to them in Poland because it's like 6-7 hour time difference. But there is that going on, which Marcin Jablonski is fighting in the co-main event at 155. I talked to him earlier in the week, and we talked a little bit, and he's excited. He's looking forward to it. He said if he wins this fight, he gets the title fight against Daniel Rudkowski. Daniel Rudkowski is one of those guys that I've talked about that you will see in the UFC. I said about Mateusz Gamrot that you would see him in the UFC, and he is, and he's blowing stuff up, and he's got a fight with Jeremy Stephens. So I called that long before he got in there. This Daniel Rudkowski is another one of those guys that you're going to see in the UFC. This dude is a dangerous lightweight. And for Jablonski to get that shot, it's huge. This could be definitely career changing for him. If he gets the win tomorrow, and then lines up for that fight with Rudkowski, and he wins, that's huge. That's huge for your career. And that's the thing about these, especially these other organizations around the world, is it only takes 1-2 fights to totally change your career. You beat Daniel Rudkowski in Poland, and that's a whole different thing. You're going to be known all over the country, half the world, and that it's going to put you on UFC's radar and Bellator radar and these worldwide radars. That's going to put you on their scene. So there's a lot going on in Polish MMA, and then because next week on the 28th is FEN 34, which I talked to Paul Chabrala, who is fighting in the co-main event on that one. He's fighting in a rematch at FEN 31 when he fought. His TKO win went viral all over the world, and you can find it anywhere. If you think it was FEN 31, you just put that in, it's going to pop up. When he caught his opponent with the right, and then there was kind of a little bit of action, and then his opponent stumbles back to the cage, and the referee just jumps in and stops it, and you're like, what's going on? His opponent's ear exploded. Like, the top half of his ear, exploded off. So they're going to run it back. A lot of bad blood that way, and a lot of pushing and shoving, and you had several people getting up in there. But, he said he's a lot more under control this time, and, he grew a lot mentally from that fight. Still a young fighter. But we'll talk more about that one next week. And then the week after, it's June 5th, I think is the Saturday, is KSW 61. I think I said 62 last week when I was talking about it. But it's 61. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. So that's kind of how the next couple of weeks are going to lay out. Like I said, what KSW does is they always announce their main event on the event. So it'll be 61, not 62. It'll be 61, and they'll announce 62's main event. Which, if Poland keeps opening up restrictions, it could be a full house. Which, as soon as you get a full house, I'm telling you, that's when Martin Ford will be on the card. You can mark it last week when I told you, mark it again this week. Martin Ford is going to be on the first KSW 100% capacity card. Just telling you that that's going to be the guy that they're going to showcase. May not be main event. It'll probably be a co-main event, but he's going to be the one to put the butts in the seats, as they say. So that's it, for today's show. I went a little bit long today. I'll try to keep it about 30, 45 minutes. So I guess we're right in the window. Like I said, next week, definitely tune in. We'll have, as of now, we'll have Cody Freeman. As everything goes well with his weight cuts and stuff. And, don't want to bother him the day before the fight if he's got some issues with that. But, as of right now, that's what we're looking at. Make sure to subscribe to the Are You Serious on YouTube at AYS Sports. The Are You Serious Sports Facebook page. The AYS Fight Club on Twitter. It's AYS_Fight Club. Follow us on Twitter. Give you a follow back. Leave us some comments. Try to keep it pretty active. Share news and fights. Highlights and stuff like that. Try to keep it active. Jump on there, interact with me. same thing here. Jump in here with some comments. Anything y'all want to talk about, I'm always down for. Anything hypothetical you want to throw in there, just put it down. We'll talk about it. So that's it for this week. Like I said, make sure you follow us on Facebook, follow us on the YouTube, and remember the first rule of the Fight Club: tell all your friends about Fight Club. So that is it. See all y'all next week.